El 30 de noviembre se estrena la película Viernes Negro y por ese motivo Eli Roth visitó la Ciudad de México hace un par de semanas para promocionar la película y dar una masterclass a la cual tuve la oportunidad de asistir. Ahí me pude dar cuenta que Eli Roth es un verdadero fan del género, es apasionado, tenía perfectamente claro por qué quería hacer la película y se ve que va a ser una película súper divertida para pasarte un buen rato con unas palomitas y desconectarte de todo. En la masterclass Eli Roth nos compartió bastantes cosas, además habla español, así que nuestro querido Margarete dejó las expectativas bastante altas para este estreno el 30 de noviembre.
Margarete.
Un'altra volta, ma adesso vorrei proprio sentire la musica delle parole.
Margarete.
Los dejo con la masterclass y si les gusta este video no olviden darle like, activar esa campanita y compartir este contenido y nos vemos en el siguiente.
Hola, buenas noches a todos. Yo soy Diana Su, soy periodista de entretenimiento. No saben lo emocionada que estoy de esta noche de poder conducir esta masterclass con nada más y nada menos que Eli Roth. ¡Sí! Lo acabo de conocer, está por aquí, así yo iba diciéndoles dónde está para que se vayan, no. Es un tipazo, me urge ahorita hacerle las preguntas que traigo para que escuchen de él lo apasionado que vive con todo este tipo de cosas. Muchas gracias antes que nada a Sony Pictures, a Cinépolis por invitarme a conducir esto y por darnos esto a nosotros. Y gracias a ustedes porque casi no veo nada, pero quiero pensar que está llena la sala esperando a que entre Eli Roth y podamos platicar con él. Pero antes que nada quería platicarles un poquito de él, por si hay gente que no sabe de dónde sale esta película, tiene una historia increíble. Eli Roth debutó como director en 2002 con la película de Cabin Fever y después nos trajo un montón de películas, por mencionar algunas, pues Hostal, y la parte 2, y Green Inferno, y Knock Knock, y muchas otras. Pero en 2007, Eli Roth hizo un tráiler falso que se llama Thanksgiving, que se presentó en la double feature de Grindhouse, en donde pues mucha gente pudo disfrutar la película de Planet Terror de Robert Rodríguez y la de Death Proof de Quentin Tarantino. Entonces, Eli Roth hizo este tráiler que pues era falso, al igual que el de Machete, que después se hizo la película, que era un tráiler súper, quienes ya lo vieron, está en YouTube, por si quieren revisitarlo antes de ver la película cuando estrene el 30 de noviembre. Es un tráiler súper violento, súper oscuro, que nadie quiso tomar hasta hace poquito, que Eli Roth dijo que yo voy a encargarme de hacer la película basada en ese tráiler que dura 2 minutos y medio, y entonces de eso se trata. Obviamente hay una historia, hay unos personajes diferentes y todo lo que se amplió pues para poder hacer una película como la que es Thanksgiving. Viernes Negro se llama en nuestro país y como vieron ahí, estrena el 30 de noviembre. Vamos a platicar con él sobre la película, obviamente sin spoilers, no se preocupen porque sé que la mayoría no lo ha visto, hoy no hay función, el chiste es que se emocionen, que sepan qué hay detrás de la creación de esta película y obviamente pues de la filmografía de Eli Roth. Así que antes de presentarlo y de traerlo aquí conmigo, vamos a pasar el tráiler. Un aplauso para Eli Roth, por favor.
Buenas noches. Buenas noches. All right, I'll try. So I'm very happy to be here. So muy feliz
de estar aquí.
De estar aquí. Gracias. I missed you all. Nice to see you.
I have to talk on behalf of everybody. We are very excited to have you here. Thank you for choosing our country and thank you for choosing this audience that's gonna be really privileged to listen to what you have to say. So thank you.
Gracias. Well, I had an amazing experience aquí in, con Hostel for Film Festival in Mexico, Ciudad de Mexico. Many years ago, we got a D rating, D. It's classification, it was like, yes! Feeling classification D. So I hope this is maybe same, I hope it did. But it was un gran honor. They've really supported me, the Latin audiences in Mexico. And I love, obviously, Mexican cinema. Of course. And you know, the films I love with Narciso Ibáñez Serrador, and of course Poison for the Fairies. There's so many great directors that I love, so it's an honor for me to be here.
Thank you. As I told you, they haven't seen the movie, so we're not gonna talk about any spoilers, so they can enjoy it.
Of course.
When they say it in cinemas. I prepared some questions for you. After that, we are gonna have some time, so if anybody has to prepare a question for Eli, they can think about it. So when I introduced you, I was telling them that in 2007 you made a fake trailer called Thanksgiving as part of this Grindhouse that was featured with Planet Terror and with Death Proof. And 16 years after that, we are here, sitting here, and you did this movie based on that trailer. And you had, as a filmmaker, the chance to go back to one thing that you did 16 years ago, but now you're a bigger man, and now you have more experience. What changed from the first concept that you had, and nowadays that you had the chance to do this movie?
Good question. Originalmente. So it's gonna be terrible. My Spanglish you're gonna kill me. I'll be a meme in 2 seconds. Originally, I grew up, era un niño in Boston, Massachusetts. So in the 80s. So it was horror movies, like, you know, from Halloween, but My Bloody Valentine, April Fool's Day, so Mother's Day, everything, Silent Night, Deadly Night, everything had a holiday, except Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving was a big deal, because it was where I grew up, was where the Pilgrims first landed. So it's like shoved down your throats in school. It's like, they go to the village with the, does everyone understand the Torres? Are we translating, or it's good?
Yeah, we have a translator there,
okay,
so
good.
don't, yeah.
All right, good. So everyone, you know, when I was growing up, you'd go to the village where they're recreating the Pilgrims, and my best friend, Jeff, we'd say, when are they gonna make a Thanksgiving slasher? It's perfect. You can have a person in a turkey costume and cut the head off, and they're running around like a turkey, and we can put someone in an oven. Like, what if we do a human turkey with little chef hats? Like, we're kids, we're 12 and 13 years old with these ideas to do this movie, and every year we're like waiting, and for me, November was the worst month, because after Halloween, I was so sad. So sad. There was no horror movies until January or December. Maybe one Christmas movie, but you had to wait. And I said, why can't we have the one movie that comes in November so we don't have to wait until January? And then when Grindhouse happened, it was Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez said, we're going to make these movies and we want to put fake trailers in between the movies. And so, do you want to do one? I said, I've got it. It's Thanksgiving. I have all the kills already. So we did it in 2 days with no money, and I took the leftover fake heads and body parts from Hostel 2 in the cast, and I added 2 days to the shoot, and we shot this crazy fake trailer that was so just sick and inappropriate and disgusting. And it was like a parody of a movie from 1980. It was really a joke. But people loved it, and they'd say, well, when are you gonna make the movie? And I thought, well, we already did it. We did the best parts. Who wants to see the boring parts? The trailers, what more do you want? We showed every kill possible. So we couldn't figure out what the story was, but for a long time, after a while, I thought, well, what if that was a real movie? And Thanksgiving 1980 is a real film, and it was so offensive that every print was destroyed, and the only thing that survived was the trailer. And this is the reboot from 2023 of what that movie was. And that freed us up creatively to take our favorite moments from the trailer, but not have to be a movie that is exactly like that. But it started when we were 12 years old. That's when this idea began.
We want to see deaths and creative ways to kill people.
Me too.
And I've heard, like, I want to ask you about the inspiration behind those kills. Like, how did you get inspired? I know that you sometimes, and I want you to talk about this, go to museums of medieval torture. And there's where you find your inspiration, right?
Yeah, the Catholic Church. They're amazing. Amazing. I'm like, that is, you can do a pyramid and have someone sit on it and then it goes into their butthole for 3 days until they're in death. What? Or oh God, the best one was they would put you upside down and each grab a leg and then take a double-ended saw from the middle of you. And the reason you're upside down is so the blood goes to your brain so you feel the maximum pain and stay alive as long as possible. And I saw a drawing of that and I just thought, man, they've got me beat. They are professionals. So yeah, that was one of the inspirations. It was just reading history, of course.
I have here in my hands the first season of History of Horror. This for me is like a Bible. I was telling Eli that people in schools should watch this so they learn, because it doesn't matter if you're a fan of horror. This is pop culture. This is like
it's our history.
Yeah, exactly. And while I was watching that, and how you talk with Greg Nicotero and with Quentin Tarantino and with many actors and directors and producers and makeup artists, I was wondering about horror. I was wondering, what are you scared of? Do you get scared of anything? What are your favorite horror movies? Something that you say, wow, this is horrible for me.
Well, we all have fears. I mean, everyone has the fear you're going to die in a plane crash, or that my great fear was that I would never get to make Thanksgiving. I was like, what if I die before Thanksgiving gets made? That's what my fears are. But we see the world around us, the collapse of society, the way people get put into a group and vilified and turned into, justified, the way people say, well, now we can kill them because they are part of this group. That's terrifying. The attacks that just happened are terrifying. So there are many things in the world. The world is a scary place. The collapse of society is scary. And there are people that want you to feel that way. And I think that the movies are a great way for us to express our collective fear. And one of the things I love about Mexico and Mexican culture, and coming in last night on Dia de los Muertos, is that I believe that Mexican culture and Latin culture in general has a very healthy relationship with death and talking to the dead, and it's not a forbidden subject. It's an important subject, and everyone is part of that subject. And in America, it's like, don't talk about it. The only time we talk about death is with horror movies. So I think that I wish American culture was as spiritual and respectful in the way that Latin culture is towards death. But I think, as we get older, our fears change. You see something, I used to be terrified of sharks. Now I love sharks, and I will defend them to my dying day. They're so incredible and beautiful. I made a documentary because they're all getting killed and they keep our oceans healthy. But for a long time I was terrified of them. But now as you get older, there's other things. You have kids and you're scared for something to happen to them. But I think the fun, to answer your question with the creative deaths, is I've seen every horror movie, or as many as I possibly can. Not every, but as many as I can. And I always think, I've always wanted to see this in a movie. We all do that. I go, you're sitting there with a fork and you're like, what if someone just stabbed it in someone's eye? Like, we all think that. None of us do it. Well, a couple of us do it, but you're just like, you have the corn on the cob thing. You're like, what if that just went in your ear? It'd be so horrible. And then I think, I'll write it down. And part of the fun with Thanksgiving and, Viernes Negro is that the holiday has gotten perverted. In America, it started as the celebration where the settlers came and the Native Americans fed them, and then the settlers later killed them and took their land. But the holiday, which we make reference to in the movie, but the holiday was about being with your family and being thankful. We go around the table, what are you thankful for? I'm thankful for my parents. And then these sales started, the Black Friday sale, which, for Christmas, they said, okay, the day after Thanksgiving, someone created Black Friday, where all the TVs are on sale, and then so you'd go to the store on Friday and it was a lot of people, but you'd get there early. Then they pushed it to midnight because 12:01 is technically Friday. Then it's 10, then it's 6 o'clock. And then Black Friday, you'd see their videos on YouTube of the gates going up and people trampling each other. There's one waffle iron riot. I mean, there's so many videos of people just beating the shit out of each other for televisions. And you think it's such a perversion of the holiday. That was what the story was about. So if you're taking the idea of this holiday and twisting it, what else can we do? Okay, we have turkey, you have the dinner, you have corn on the cob, you have the meat tenderizer. So you just take the idea of like, what's a really fucked up holiday movie? Like, think of a Christmas movie or a Thanksgiving movie, and what is the worst thing you can do? What's the most sick, perverse thing that you can do with the corn on the cob? It's taking something that's supposed to be for feeding you and protecting your hands, and now you're sticking it in someone's ears. It's horrible. And when I get that feeling of, oh, that's horrible, that's how I know it's a good kill.
If I die tomorrow, and this is the last thing that I did, will I be proud of it? And that's how you measure if you're doing the right thing for you, what makes you happy. I just want you to talk about it.
Sure. I have to believe that. And sometimes you go off that and you need to remind yourself that look, I'm very lucky in my career, and the horror fans have been amazing, and they supported me going to Cabin Fever. I was the new kid, and they gave me a chance, and it allowed me to make more movies. But with that opportunity, you think, what do I really want to do? And what's important to me? And it's hard to see because offers come your way and you start convincing yourself, oh, this is a good idea, or well, I can do that. And then suddenly you can do 30 things. And now all of a sudden you're trying to do everything at once. So I really have that litmus test of if I have 3 opportunities in front of me, and that's something that I think comes with age and experience that I'm still working on getting better at, of being singular focused. I for a while was like, I want to do everything. I want to do 100 different things. And I don't think I'm doing my best work, and it's not necessarily making me happy. So I would say for anyone creative out there, I assume you're all aspiring writers, filmmakers, musicians, artists, anything you can do. Quentin gave me advice. Tarantino said, never let your B project become your A project. That you always have your A project and your B project, but keeping your focus on one thing that you really want to do, that really will bring you the deep happiness, is very challenging. It's challenging with our phones distracting us, it's challenging with our lives, but if you can put on those blinders and get in that creative zone and express yourself, you stop caring about everything else. And look, I'm very happy this movie is playing in a cinema in Mexico. It means everything to me. But when we were making it, we did not have distribution. It was an independent movie, and this was in March. There was no guarantee it would be seen by anyone. But I said, I don't care, I have to make this movie, and I'm gonna make it the best movie I've ever made. And that energy is what carries over. That I think everything you do, you have to make it like, you know what, if I die tomorrow, I did it. Okay, well, we have a lot of things screening at Northern tomorrow, and I got press next week, so I'd like to not die tomorrow. But if I do die tomorrow, you'll have photos, and I did it.
Yeah, bravo for you. Now that you mentioned, one of my favorite friendships in the world is you and Quentin Tarantino. Because when I know you did like a short of Reservoir Dogs, and then he presented your second movie, and you started your friendship a long time ago, and I think you both do think that how I make him better, how do we help each other? And I want to ask you about that. What have you learned from each other? What experience can you tell us?
Well, Quentin has been more than a friend to me. He's been a brother, a mentor, a best friend, a support system, and he's an incredible, incredible person. And I'm telling you, the way he touches you with his cinema that it feels like it's part of your personal experience, the way you love his cinema. It's him. There's just something so magical about him. And he's so generous because he's the best. And he knows he's the best. There's no insecurity about it. There's no one like him. There is no one like him, bar none. The best writer, director, there's just no one at Quentin's level. And he cares and loves so much about it. And he wants you to succeed. And he wants you to be better. And he saw Cabin Fever 20 years ago, and we became friends from it. And he read Hostel, and he said, I think you can do better. I think you're cheating here. And he made me write another version of the movie and fix the edit. I brought him into the edit, and he's like, this can be better. You can take out 10 minutes. I'm like, why? He goes, you can cut here and cut. And I was, oh, you're right, we can take it out. He's like, it's so good, you're almost there, just take that out. And then with Inglourious Basterds, you know, because I'm Jewish, I could really talk to him when he's writing. I brought him to my Passover Seder. I'm not gonna make Quentin a better writer. Quentin is the greatest, but I can help give him a very authentic point of view, or when I disagree with something that doesn't ring true from a Jewish point of view, I can tell him and he's like, okay, that's great, that makes sense, it's very helpful. Or I could, you know, in the way we trust each other, where if he shows me something, or if I say, I think you're doing that beat twice, like we listen to each other. We want, you know, he's an incredible person and a special person. And what I like about him is that I remember when I was gonna make Hostel, I had turned down a movie that was like some studio comedy, and they offered me like more money than I had ever seen in my entire life. It would have changed my life. And I said no, because it didn't feel right. I didn't know how to make it good. And he's like, no, that you did the right thing. He's like, what are your other ideas? I go, well, I got this one idea, it's really fucked up. I don't know if anyone will see it. He's like, what? And I told him the idea for Hostel, and he said, that's the best idea I have heard in 10 years. I'm scared just thinking about it. You have to make that. I go, well, what if it's so crazy no one sees it? He goes, fuck it. Don't worry about opening weekend. Think about that weekend 15 years from now. If kids are still watching it at a sleepover, you know, daring each other to watch it. That's the only weekend that matters, is the weekend 15 years from now. He goes, Reservoir Dogs made no money, but after 15 years, it's a classic. Pulp Fiction did, Jackie Brown did. He goes, you can't control it. You have to make it for 15 years from now, if kids are still gonna watch it. And it's just the greatest advice, of making that, thinking that there's nothing else. You put everything into your movie. He's an incredible person, and I love him to death. I mean, I feel very lucky that I've got to know him in my lifetime. That's all I can say.
I want to congratulate you. But when students, when new filmmakers want to do a movie and they don't have a lot of money and they want to try, and usually it doesn't work out in terms of money, you've done it. What can you share us about your experience with that?
Writing is the cheapest thing in the world, and it comes down to your ideas. And you have to challenge yourself that if you write yourself into a corner, you've got to come up with your characters to have a clever way out of it. And something, you know, I learned from working with David Lynch and watching him when we shot stuff for his website. There's no excuse for white walls. Unless you're making, you know, Severance, and it's very stylized, and you understand how to use white walls, there's no excuse. And when I watch a low-budget movie, and you watch Dasha Nekrasova, who has this podcast called Red Scare, made a movie called The Scary of 61st. She made it for very little money. She spent all the money shooting on 35 millimeter. But it's well done because she painted every wall. And when you watch Eraserhead, David Lynch painted every set. He took the time to give it texture, to give it a mood, and to think of the ideas. And when you look at a movie, I always look at the posters, and I think, did they really think about what this character had as a teenage girl for the posters on their wall? Because it's a pain in the ass to get posters from other movies. You have to call the studio, you have to get permission from the actors, you have to get the rights, it's expensive, but those details make it a real bedroom. When I see generic art in it, or it's not thought out, you can feel it. So even if it's not a famous movie poster, when you're making your movie, think of your frame like a canvas. If you have a painting, it's a blank canvas. My mother's an artist, so I learned this from her at a young age, and I started in animation. You have to think of every color, every texture, every image that goes in front of your lens. So you can say, we have no money. We're shooting in my friend's apartment. But you can put up curtains, you can paint it, you can do it, you can put up artwork so that the shot has texture. And what the character says, the things they say, could be some incredible thought. And the way they dress and the style. I mean, you look at our characters, you look at what you chose to wear tonight, and you look at what I chose to wear tonight. And in some way, they reflect an aspect of our personality. So it's the details. That's what makes it feel high quality. When it's low budget and it's cheap, it's because they didn't take the time to think through all those tiny details. And when you watch a movie, whether it's a Talk to Me or a Scary of 61st or an It Follows, it's someone who took the time to really think through those details, and that's what makes it cinematic. If they're not doing it, it's not low budget, I'm telling you. I mean, sometimes everything fell through, you had to shoot in some location. We've all had it. It's happened to me too. But more often than not, it's laziness. It's the director thinking, I don't need to do that. And then that's why you feel bored watching it.
Something common that we see in your movies, like Cabin Fever, like a Hostel, like Thanksgiving, is that you like to tell stories through teenagers, through young people. Why is that?
Well, young people make the best protagonists in horror films because there's always one of them who does something really fucking stupid. And that transgression is what gets the whole group in trouble. And then what's fun is how the group deals with the killer. Because the idiot sometimes becomes the smartest one. And then the one that is the most stable completely falls apart. And so I like characters that think they're adults, but they're not really adults yet. So they haven't had to grow up, but this situation, you know, when you put a character in crisis, that's where you can see who they really are. Because everything else is the image they're presenting for their friends. And, you know, they're always horny, they always want to have sex, they always want to do something stupid. There's like fun and energy and life. And I'm interested in generation to generation to generation, what changes, what stays similar, the way language changes. And when I write a script, I'll write it, you know, I try to stay in touch with, I'm not going to know exactly how a 17-year-old talks. I have friends with kids, and I know other actors, I know kids in college. All my friends' kids are that age. So I'll write a scene, and I'll tell my friend's daughter, I need your help. And I go through it, and I read the scene to them, and I go, what feels phony? And they go, well, we would never say that, or wait a minute, okay, that doesn't make sense. We would just do this, 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 and I go, and so I take the time to research 17-year-olds, and I have a number of them that are my friends' kids that are my go-to secret sources, that if I need really, really sharp dialogue for an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old, I will write the scene, I'll spend the time talking to them, figuring it out, sharpening it, I'll finish the scene, I'll send them the scene, and they know that it's for one of my movies, and they keep it super locked down, and then they'll say, okay, yeah, this feels real, and then I'll send it out, and then when the actors read it, they go, I can't believe this, how do you know how to write someone 30 years younger than you? I'll go, okay, this is a scene. This character likes this girl, and so this other couple's going, okay, he really likes her. Make him look good. What's a good way to say that? And it's like, I'll gas him up. I didn't know that meant. Everybody else did. Everyone, you gas him up. I'm like, okay, guess we're gonna gas him up. So that's the fun for me. Learning those phrases and but the behavior, you have to understand the relationships and the behavior, but I like it. I like understanding. I'm very interested in young people, how they think, how they see the world, what they're afraid of, what they see coming, how my generation once before I'd have fucked it up and trying to fix it. So that's the work, is the writing. And when I talk about being lazy, I can write something and go, my dialogue's great, this is fine. I'd be like, you sound like a fucking old man, this makes no sense. Or you take the time to really talk to a wide range of people age, and you're gonna discover, it's gonna give you 15 new ideas.